All right, friends, welcome back to another great episode of Dr. J Radio Live. A very special episode at that on a weekend, but considering we have to stay inside and down, and I can't quite say why without getting demonetized or literally getting deleted or blocked, I assume you all know. And I'm not just speaking to you in the United States, I'm literally talking to you in all of the world. Now, without going further ado, I just want to let you know that today is going to be a very, very special show, not just because of the day. Actually, the day has really nothing to do with it. It's about the guest, and more importantly, what the guest is going to share with you. I'm already super excited. Even before I got a chance to speak to the guest, I've already read everything about him, and I was so pumped up to the point that I couldn't wait to get him on air to ask him a question that I had to ask him something beforehand. So, without spoiling any more, without giving you what I'm going to say, let me bring on the one and only Mr. Gary Prker. Gary, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. J, thanks a lot for having me on.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine and all of ours. Now, let's tell people a little bit about yourself and also include your connection to Hollywood because a lot of people don't get to see LA.
Well, Dr. J, before I say anything about myself, which is my favorite topic, could could I tell your audience something about what they're going to be hearing?
Oh, please, 100%. Yes.
Okay, everybody. Now, this is going to sound crazy. Everything I'm going to tell you is going to sound a little out there, but I'm going to tell you exactly how everybody that listens to this show, I'm sure, is interested in aliens, interested in the Great Pyramid, Egypt, Gobekli Tepe in Turkey. Well, I'm going to tell you guys that the main alien, when I say the main alien, he's a guy, he's actually a god. His name is El, E-L, which means power. In ancient Hebrew, ancient man used to call God El, okay? Well, El has been here on Earth since July 26, 2012. And I'm going to tell your audience, and you, Dr. J, how you can communicate with El. It's very, very easy because I know you all see, some of you have seen UFOs, some of you have seen aliens. Well, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can communicate with El. This is what you have to do. And this is how I'd like to open up the show. You have no problem with that?
Oh, of course. It's short. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay, thank you, sir. So what happens, guys, is this. Here's what you have to do. You have to go to a river. Any river that has water in it. Okay, go to the river. Take off your shoes and socks. Stand in the water with your feet, your bare feet, connected to the earth. Okay, the water only has to be up to your ankles, no deeper, just up to your ankles. You got to make sure though that you're not standing on rocks or stones. You have to stand. You have to make sure it's connected to
the soil at the bottom of the ocean.
Thank you. That's even better. What happens is then what you do is you face east. You put your hands up in the air, and you say these words in Hebrew. This is what you're saying. You say them loud, really loud and really clear. You don't whisper. You yell out, El, and you say it like this. I'm going to do it like in a mantra. You say it like this. El, 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 Kiddosh, 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 Heineni, Heineni, Heineni. And you say it 3 times. El, 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 Kiddosh, 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 Heineni, Heineni, Heineni. Now, like I said, you say it 3 times, and that means power, 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 or God, 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 holy, holy, holy. Heineni means I am here, take me. That's saying that you're open to El's communication. Trust me when I tell you, if you do that, it will open up a part of your brain. You will get an answer. It might not be that same day. It might be a couple days later. It could be you will be answered. El will answer you. Now, also, one other thing. Don't do this alone. Take someone with you that will video you with their phone, with their iPhone. Video the thing. And what you do is later on, go back, download it onto your computer, and look at it, and you'll probably be able to see El or one of his people. So is that simple enough, Dr. J?
Oh, it's beyond simple. Actually, I already wrote down the 3 words. L, Kiddush, is Kiddosh, Kiddosh, Kiddosh.
Kiddosh, K-A-D-O-S-H, Kiddosh, which is holy, holy, holy. Heineni, Heineni, H-E-N-I-N-E. Wait, H-E-N-I-N-I. Heineni, 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 which means I'm here, take me. Now, those words come from every Hebrew prophet. All the Hebrew prophets said those words standing in the water, and that's how I made my connection. And now we'll start the show.
Yeah, that's a great way to start it, because obviously people, including myself, are writing down the words and obviously thinking about, geez, what would it be like? Because as I told you a minute ago, there's been a few people on here, Stephen Greer being one of them, Fausto Perez another one, Robert Bingham being another one, Jim Martin being a fourth person, and there's more than that. People who have had contact and can willingly meditate and send a message, and instead of having something land or actually seeing beings, you see orbs and different craft that show up in a nice blue sky 80 to 1,000 feet high up. This, on the other hand, is a little different. Before I go into your background, can I ask you about this real quick? Why east?
Well, you got to remember that the Sphinx, the Great Pyramid, they all face east. Everything faces east because east means a rebirth, a new day. The sun rises in the east, sets in the west.
That's right.
And that means a new day, rebirth. That's why everything faces east.
Now, before we talked about ETs, you came out to Sherman Oaks, California, which is actually a couple miles from where I am right now. And at the time, you got involved with Hollywood, right?
Well, actually, when I first got out to L.A. in the late 70s, I was in real estate. I got into real estate. I started being a developer, buying some property, building some things. And then I got together, a couple friends of mine had written a hit movie called While You Were Sleeping, and with Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman, and it became a big hit. Well, I used to play basketball with these guys at the Hollywood YMCA and other stars and other writers and other directors, and they let me read their script. I came up with a few jokes or a few bits in the movie that they used. And after I did that, they said, "Gary, do you have any stories or ideas that you'd like to sell?" And they had a 7-picture or 5-picture deal with Disney. And I came up with a couple movie ideas, and they said, "Look, we think we can sell this one." So that was my introduction to Hollywood. And then I teamed up with a lady by the name of Marjorie Rose. We ended up writing some scripts, and one movie got made. But I'm still doing it. I'm actually right now I'm working with a great special effects director named Mario Torres Jr., and he's worked on the Avengers movies and everything. And we're going to be producing a feature as soon as the coronavirus is over.
One great thing is you're still in the Writers Guild, and that's why no matter where you are in the world, especially these days where you don't need a typewriter, you could probably, I think it would be more difficult than typing it, especially since I kind of have that flow. And I would think it kind of goes the same with other writers as opposed to dictating it through Siri. But essentially, because you're in the Writers Guild of America, you can be in Egypt as we speak and writing scripts or stories that are going to be converted in scripts and still do business globally, right?
I guess. To be honest with you, I'm a horrible WGA member because I haven't paid my dues in years. So as soon as one of my deals goes through, they're going to be taking all those dues away from me. So, so I'm not the greatest WGA member, which WGA, Writers Guild of America. So yes. But thank you for making me sound like I'm the Hemingway of Phoenix. But I was lucky enough to sell a few scripts and have one movie made, but trust me when I tell you, I'm really not that good of a writer. I'm really not.
Everybody, he's just downplaying himself. He really is.
No, I'm a hack. Trust me. No, but the story I'm going to tell you guys about Elle is 100% true, and everything's really exciting. But seriously, though, Dr. J, I'm really a bad writer. I hate to say it. I'm good with story and I'm good with dialogue, but I'm a bad writer.
Well, let me throw in this one comment. Because of my proximity to the city and obviously being involved in entertainment myself, I've come across a lot of writers who some have even gone as far as selling the scripts, and yet they've been passed around studio from studio and never make it to the big screen. So the fact that you've already made something to the big screen that people recognize, including myself, is a big feat. So that I have to congratulate you.
Well, that's really sweet. But the thing that I had made did not get a theatrical release. So it didn't make it to the big screen. It went straight to video.
To the silver.
And I hate to make myself look really bad, but I just I know people who are real writers and who are great, and I'm not that. Do you know what I mean? I'd like, but thank you so much for making me sound so much better than I am.
Now, when did you? No, I'm just not going to respond to that because, of course, I'm going to keep doing it. When did you first go to Egypt and Israel, respectively? And when you first went, were ETs in the back of your mind, or were you a non-believer? Were you believing and didn't make a connection yet? How did that come about?
Well, I've always been a believer, it's forever, for my whole life. Ever since back in 1969 when I first read, and I think it was 1969, I was maybe like 8 or 9 years old, and I got my first copy of Chariot of the Gods.
And
I went up to the local.
Yeah, great
Yes,
friend.
and I read that and I said, "Oh my God!" Yeah, even as a kid, I knew this guy was on to something. But nothing ever happened. I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen an alien. But what happened was about 5 years ago, I was sitting around coming up with movie ideas, and I thought, how can one person create world peace? How can one person bring the whole world together without it being religion? And I said, well, what about this? What about restoring the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx? What if we do what's it called? When you raise money with everybody, what's that called?
Crowdfunding?
Yes, I was going to globally crowdfund it. And I thought, that's not a bad idea. What a cool idea. So a couple of I needed some startup money. First of all, I thought it was a great idea. I pitched it to a few producers. They said, Gary, that's a great idea. And I said, yeah, because I figured if everybody loves Egypt, everybody loves the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. And I thought, and it's falling apart. And I thought, what if a few people put in a couple $1 billion and we start making it look a little nicer? So what I did was I contacted Sir Richard Branson and Elon Musk. And how did I get their emails? A couple movie producers that I know had their emails. So and they told me, they said, Gary, whatever you do, don't tell them where you got our email. Where you got their emails. I said, okay. So, Dr. J, I emailed both of those guys. And Elon Musk and Sir Richard Branson,
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
When I read that in your bio, I was like super excited that you have that connection too.
Yeah, well, I don't have that connection. Trust me. What happens is I put a heading. I said, World Peace, Restoring the Great Pyramid and Sphinx. And I wrote a little paragraph that said, hey, I came up with this idea. I want to make it happen. And I figured they never respond. Dr. J, the next morning, they sent me an email, both of them. Well, Sir Richard Branson said, Gary, if this is for real, I want to be part of it. Elon Musk, he did not respond, but a lady by the name of Gwenn Shotwell, who's the president of SpaceX, she runs the place. She said, Gary, Elon and I read this email. Is this for real? Is this a joke? And I emailed them back. I said, guys, give me 6 months. I'm going to work on it. Because I had built some homes and a couple apartments in Los Angeles, I thought, I can do this. But you're talking about a foreign country. You're talking about a giant, massive structure, Great Pyramid and the Sphinx. So I had ballparked it at around $12 billion in 10 years for it to restore it. And when I say restore it, just make it look nice. So what happened was, the next day or 2 days later, as I was making phone calls and everything, I went to the NASA website because I said, I want to get a close-up look at the Great Pyramid. So I downloaded a photo that you have on your website. Everybody, if you want these pictures I'm going to tell you about, you can download them off of Dr. J's website. And what happens is I downloaded a photo from NASA. Actually, the call numbers are ISS 032-E-009123. And as I zoomed in, most people, Dr. J, look at those from a distance because they're shot from 200 miles above Earth, from the International Space Station. So what happens is as I zoomed in closer to the Great Pyramid, where I was thinking about putting machinery and men and that kind of stuff, I noticed there were these clouds, and they were right beside the Great Pyramid. And I said, oh, my gosh, those clouds look like letters. So they were right on the screen right now. And as I zoomed in closer, running east and west on the north side of the Great Pyramid, in the sand, were the letters right there that you're showing. And I said, oh, my God, are those words? So I wrote them down, took a picture with my cell phone, and sent them to a couple Aramaic scholars and Judaic scholars, and they translated them for me. And they said, those say, I am who I am, creator of all things. They said, where did you find those? I said, they're written in a NASA photo right beside the Great Pyramid. along with those other letters that you showed earlier that look like Elwell.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that.
Which actually says God and the Lord of the underworld. So what happens is that I was freaking out because these letters and words are all over the photo. And one of the scholars here at the University of Arizona in Tucson, he emailed me and said, "Gary, where did you find these?" I told him, I circled them. He said, "Come on down, I want to meet you." And his name is Dr. Edward Wright, Edward J. Wright. He's worked on the Dead Sea Scrolls, all that kind of stuff. And he started translating stuff for me. And I said, "Well, doctor, this is a message, doctor, right?" And he said to me, he goes, "Gary, I know it is, but I think you may have photoshopped this." And I said to him, I said, "Well, how many people would know how to write this language?" He said, "Very few." So he thought it was a hoax, okay? Even though when we were there at his office, I said, "Get on your computer, go to the website, and pull it up on yours," because I had taken my laptop with me to show him. So he did, and he saw that it wasn't made up, that I didn't Photoshop it. And he said, "Gary, I still can't get involved with this. I have a reputation to uphold." I said,
That's
okay.
the usual thing I hear, actually.
Well, as a matter of fact, speaking of that, in November I met with SETI at UCLA, a professor there who's a physicist. I met, his name is Jean-Luc Margot, and he runs SETI at UCLA. Now, Jean-Luc Margot, I showed him everything in the NASA photo. And he said, "Well, Gary, I see it, but I refuse to believe it." And I now you got to, everybody, if you're listening, the way I got the meeting was this. Most times people at SETI or any of those places, they won't meet with regular people. They just won't. Especially people who are talking about UFOs.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that cuts them off. I could tell you that, right? Because I know Seth Shostak very well.
But okay, good. But what I did, which I've emailed him a few times, he just totally ignored me. So, which I understand. But what happens is I had emailed this Jean-Luc Margot guy, and I told him I'm a real estate developer, and I want to make a donation to SETI. Well, all of a sudden the doors flew open at UCLA. Okay, like, "Oh, come on in, I'll take you to lunch." So when I get there, I show him everything, and he says, and I told him after he sees it, he goes, "Gary, I see it, but I'm not going to believe it." And I said, "Well, why wouldn't you believe it?" He said, "Because I'm trained to be a scientist." And I said, "Well, let me ask you something." I said, "Ever since Carl Sagan, who started SETI, it's been almost 60 years. They found nothing. You're 0-60. I said, I'm telling you that if you go down to a river," first of all, I showed him all the aliens, everything in the NASA photo. And I said, "You're 0-60. I said, I'm telling you, go down to the river, into a river, stand in the water, say these words, and you'll make a connection." He goes, "I'm not going to do that." I said, "But you're a scientist." I said, the big satellite dishes you're having receive, trying to get signals from space, is not working for 60 years. I'm telling you, it doesn't cost you a dime. All you have to do is get in your car, drive to a river, stand in the water. You'll make the connection." He goes, "I refuse to do it." I said, well, I said, "You should be embarrassed of yourself." I said, "Are you saying that the only way to make a connection is through man-made electrical equipment?" I said, "Tesla," and I told him, he was getting upset with me because he said that I was what's the word? I was being
I'm obtuse came to my mind, but that wouldn't be a word I would think. Not overly hopeful.
He said to me, "You're insulting me."
Oh, geez.
And I said, you and Carl Sagan and Seth Shostak are 0-60. I said, I made contact by going down to a river, standing in the water. I said, I'm telling you to do this, and you're telling me you're not going to do it. I said, why would anybody invest with you who wouldn't take a chance on this? Because they think the only way you're going to make a connection is through some kind of frequency or signal. And it's just ridiculous. So he annoyed the hell out of me, doctor, I'll tell you.
I'm going to agree with you real quick before you continue. I'm going to agree with you 110% because I've always wondered, why the heck are we expecting a species, if they can get here, right? If they have that technology, why would they be using what we were sending with radio waves 100 years ago? I'm not talking sending them into space. I'm talking about when we started sending him across Earth, starting with Nikola Tesla. Why would we expect them to be stuck then instead of looking to now and the future?
Right. You know, but so what happened was hang on, I lost my place. I was going to tell you something. I totally forgot what I was going to
Oh,
say.
no, we were
But
just talking about the fact that Seth Shostak, Carl Sagan, and the UCLA, Jean-Luc Margot, were using
right.
outdated radio waves to contact them.
Well, actually, they don't send it out. They actually have satellites that actually receive signals
Yeah,
that they
yeah.
never get.
They're looking
and they
for
want to
them.
build. They
Yeah.
want to build more and more. And I said, all you guys are doing is wasting money and wasting time. So there's a guy named Nikola Tesla. You've heard of Tesla, right?
Of course.
Okay. Well, Tesla said all you need to learn the secrets of the universe are three things: energy, frequency, and what's the other one? And vibration. Well, when you stand in the water, you're using vibration from the earth. You're using frequency from your voice, and you're putting vibration. You're using energy from the earth, vibration with your voice, and frequency with the tone of your voice. That's how you make a connection. But you have to use the earth. Using man-made things is not going to work. The energy is within each of us, and if you go down to the river, like I said, Dr. J, you'll make the connection.
Let me
But for a professor at UCLA who says he's UCLA/SETI, why wouldn't you try anything to make the connection? Since for the past 60 years you haven't been able to. You failed, but you still want people to donate money to SETI. It makes no sense to me.
Unless it's a tax write-off, that would be the only reason I would think, because they're clearly not doing anything proper. Real quick, before these disappear, I just want to give 3 shout-outs to Super Chats already. First, starting with Third Phase, and the world's largest UFO YouTube channel, which are actually my mentors, Blake and Brent in Hawaii. And we also have Rockstar and Tammy George. I want to thank you for your support already. Now, back to my guest. And by the way, don't worry, we have another hour and a half, and I will promise you all, you will have time to ask questions via chat. Gary, when you use those protocols, standing in the river facing east and using the let me write, I read them again here. L, and the next one was Kadosh. And Hey Nani, three times. Hey Nani. Was there something that inspired you? For instance, did you have like something pop in your head that possibly could be, some people would look at as an ET, telepathy that would give you these protocols, or how did you identify them?
Well, what I did was, when I went to the Judaic scholars and especially Dr. Wright down at the University of Arizona, when he knew it was a thing called Proto-Hebrew, which is ancient Hebrew. And since it was Hebrew and he told me what the words were, I thought, well, I better start saying this in Hebrew. Also in the Jewish Bible, which is called the Torah, they say that before God comes back to earth, he's going to show everybody his face. He's going to show everybody his face, and he's going to show you the Garden of Eden. Okay. Well, in the NASA photo, as I showed you the outline, and I also sent you a drawing of El, that is Hashem. That is the Hebrew God. He is the guy who created us. He's the guy who puts souls into us. He's the main guy, and he has been back in Egypt. As you know, you asked me when I went to Egypt. I've been in Egypt. I was in Egypt on May 10th, and then I was in Jerusalem from May 14th until May 30th, and I made connections with El and with his people. They're already in Egypt right now, and El will reveal himself in Jerusalem on July 26, 2022.
And because that's a huge thing, people are like, what did you just say? And before we get to what's going to happen in 2022, what happened in 2012 is directly correlated. What happened 8 years ago, for those who don't know?
Well, supposedly in 2012 on December 21st was the Mayan calendar had ended. Now, 5 months before that, the NASA photo showed up. El showed up in Egypt, July 26, 2012. So the Mayans were right on top of it. Is that what you're talking about?
Literally, no, no, I wasn't talking about that, but now you actually added another layer. I was talking about 2022 is the revelation, but 2012 is they were here.
Yes, they showed up on July 26, 2012, and as you remember, the Mayan calendar ended December, 5 months later, December 21st, 2012. So the Mayans, it all lines up. It all lines up. And in order to see El and to see all his people, they're in the NASA photo, that one photo I was telling you about, and it actually gives it actually gives the whole history of mankind. That photo is it's 7 sections with 4 levels, and it's just amazing. And if you actually put on my on your website, you put my video where I show people how to see all the images in the NASA photo. So if they go to your website and they download my video, it will show you how to do it, and you'll be able to see all the images and everything else. Go ahead. What were you going to say, Doctor?
Oh no, real. If I have a quick moment, I had another super chat. This is great because I usually get the support at the end. So let me just acknowledge Justin T, another member of the Blue Team. And since 2 of the members of the Blue Team did send super chats, I also want to let you all know we're still keeping Nancy in our minds for what happened to her. I promise you all she will not be a statistic, and we will keep her memory alive. Now, Gary. So now you've already discovered a ton from Egypt. What about Jerusalem? Now, a lot of people that I've known travel to Jerusalem because many of them are Jewish and they have, take a pilgrimage. What's your religious background?
Well, I was raised Pentecostal. I'm sorry, Episcopal, but I really wasn't real religious. I mean, I try to live my life through the golden rule, which is just treat people the way you were treated. But I was raised Episcopalian, which is a branch of Catholicism.
Yeah, Christianity.
Yeah.
The reason why I ask that is because this fits into Judeo-Christianity, whether you're Jewish or you're Christian, because everyone knows Christians came from, who people were formerly Jewish. And the reason I'm asking is because I know a lot of Christians, including my brother, who have gone to Jerusalem, Nazareth, just wherever they could around Israel of the holy spots, and then other places for fun to visit, like Tel Aviv, for instance. So did you spawn the Israel trip to Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, and other things like that as a vacation, or were you going there for possible restorations like you were looking in Egypt, or how did that come out?
Well, what happened was a few years ago when I first started to find all the images on the NASA photo, and I met with the Judaic scholar and a bunch of rabbis here in Phoenix. What happened was I went down to the river here. There's a river here called the Gila River, spelled with a G, Gilla, Gila River in Florence, Arizona. I stood in the water, I faced east, and I yelled up those words. And then I could see everything. And I said, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Probably about a year and a half later, I had El, and there's actually there was a guy named Ezekiel who was a prophet, and he met God, and he met 4 cherubim that had 4 different faces, and they had 2 sets of wings down by a river.
Do you mind if I stop real quick? Because,
Sure.
for instance, from people who know me, I'm the black sheep in my family. Nobody believes this. And when I try to talk to my family members who are very religious, I immediately go to the book of the Bible and straight to Ezekiel. Because to me, that right there is the greatest incident of something that can be determined as ET. You just mentioned 4 faces and a wheel within the wheel. One of the descriptions of the wheel within the wheel is that it could travel in any direction, not just left or right, forward, back, but up and down.
Yes.
Which is correct. Absolutely. Which is I know Eric von Däniken and all the other people, Giorgio Tsoukalos and everybody from Ancient Aliens, all relatively believe the same or have the same theories that it is ancient astronauts. And I tend to look at that because all my life being Greek, being raised with Greek mythology, at some point in my childhood I realized how can the first thing people look at in the past be something made up? Wouldn't the first thing they write down be something that happened? And that's when I really started to realize that I have to read things literally from the past, and that obviously changed my outlook. That's why I'm really glad you brought up Ezekiel, because now we could fit him into this conversation.
Great. That's awesome. Anyway, back to the thing. The reason why I went to Egypt and Jerusalem is because they told me to go to Egypt and Jerusalem, and I had to say certain words, standing in the Great Pyramid, standing in the Nile River, standing at the Temple Mount, standing at a place called Ezekiel's Tunnel, which is in the city of David, which is just south of Jerusalem. And that's why I went. I had to go there to make all these connections. I didn't go there as a tourist. Yes, I went as a tourist, but I went there because I was told I had to go there.
Do you mean told you had to go there because of something that came to you, or from people that you knew? What I'm trying to understand is, was this something that, something that not other, that's, I'm trying to word this in a proper way. Was this something you did because of instinct that possibly could be related to the ETs themselves, or some other existential factor?
No, it was L, not ETs.
Okay, yeah, that one race. I'm glad you mentioned that.
L, the main guy, he told me I had to go to Jerusalem. I had to stand in certain spots and say certain words in Hebrew, which I did. So, and also I had to meet with two rabbis. When I was, I actually met with a couple scholars in Egypt, and then I met with a couple rabbinical scholars in Jerusalem. So I had to meet those people. I had to say certain things. I had to stand in certain areas of the Temple Mount, a place called the Golden Gate, a place called the Lion's Gate. I had to stand on a thing called the Mount of Olives. I had to stand in the water in Hezekiah's tunnel. So, and I also had to stand when I was in Egypt in the Nile River, and I had to stand inside the Great Pyramid and say these words, which I did. So, yes. So, but I was told by L to do it.
Now, when you first contacted L, was it just context that you received from him communicating to you, or did you visually see L at any time?
I saw L a year and a half later at the river.
Can you describe for people what L looked like? Because the reason I'm going to this is because he's the reason why we were made in God's image, meaning that God, right?
Yes, but the thing is this is you got to remember something. The Torah, the Bible, the Quran, they were written by men.
That's right.
They were written by men. They may have been influenced by God, but when they say they were made in His image, that's kind of made up, okay? Because I sent you a photo. I don't know if you can put it up there. I see right now on your website that you have the ark thing there. But I also sent you a drawing that I made of L. I don't know if you can put it up there.
Yeah. While you talk, I'm going to get that up there for us.
Yes. And just know this, that L is made up of millions and millions of souls. He can be solid and he can be spirit. So he's both. So
now when he's
as a matter of fact, that picture you have up there, right there. You see that? Do you see that thing with the three baskets on top?
On the right, or the left?
Yeah, on the right. Okay.
Yeah,
that is Noah's Ark. Okay, that's Noah's Ark. What that is, that is at Gobekli Tepe on pillar number 43, and I think it's called in the circular area of C, but it's number 43. That's Noah's Ark. It was a giant round coracle boat. It was gigantic. As a matter of fact, the picture on the left is Gobekli Tepe, and you can see the round valley in the front. Can you see the round valley sitting in the front?
Yes, I can.
That's where Noah's Ark landed. Okay. Now, when I went to Israel and I said the words in Jerusalem and I said the words at Hezekiah's tunnel, El told me that he was going to show me where Noah's Ark was and what Gobekli Tepe meant. At that time, I knew what Gobekli Tepe was, but I had no idea at all that on the pillar that the beings, there it is right there. That's pillar number 43. And those are the three baskets. And you can see down below the basket there, or the ark, there's a circle. and there's a big bird like a vulture with his wings spread open. Can you see that, Doc?
Yeah, I can. I'm actually looking at it as we speak.
What that is this. That is the ark, and that's the earth below it. That vulture represents El, because they were not allowed to make El look like how he looks.
I see.
What happens is El is... Oh, you changed it.
No, I changed it to be the drawing right now. It's going to come up in a second.
Okay. Hold on. El is, or the big vulture, but that is El. That's El. Okay, that is in the NASA photo. You can see him close up. You can see all his features. He's wearing a thing called a hoshin, which is a priestly breastplate with 12 different colors, and that's him. That's El. So he does kind of look human. But in the photo also, not too far from El, is Jesus. And Jesus, he looks human, but when you tilt the photo a certain way, he looks like El. So when Jesus would say, or somebody wrote that he said that when you look on him, he looks like the Father. Well, he does kind of. So Jesus is a big deal. Was Jesus God? No. Is El? Yes. El's the guy who created us. And when I say created us, in the photo, everything I tell you guys is in the NASA photo. We first started out as a single cell. We evolved into fish, came on the land, evolved into apes. Then El came down with a bunch of other beings, thousands of beings, and they're all in there. They used the Great Pyramid and the other pyramids energy to transfer human souls that went into the Great Pyramid, through El, and then into these apes that later evolved into human beings. It's all in the NASA photo, and I wish I could be sitting next to you in California, and I could show it to you, and you'd see it, and you'd freak out. But if you take your time, watch the video, and you'll be able to see everything.
Well, as soon as you actually sell the next script, I can't wait to see you here in LA for the premiere of the next movie. Because the next one will be the big screen, by the way. That's my...
Nice.
Yeah. Now, this is obviously bombshell information, and obviously people are very interested in chat because I have a very high occurrence of people posting, and actually a larger number than average, which is pretty darn good, considering it's a weekend. There's one question in the chat that's in caps, which is what I tell people to write if they want me to ask a question. That way I could differentiate the question from just communication between themselves. Let me read this to you. This is from Nicholas Cashmore. Nicholas, this is shout out to you in Canada. And it reads, Gary, can you make the sound you used in the pyramid?
Yes, it's the same thing I said at the river. You have to see, a lot of people go into the Great Pyramid and think that they can just make a sound. You can't just make a sound. You have to say certain words, because they're not going to pick up on it. It's not going to get out there. You have to say certain words at a certain mantra. And when I was in there, and everybody's different, so you don't have to say what I say, but what I said is just what I said at the river. Was just like this, but really loud. And you got to remember, too, when I was in the Great Pyramid, there was nobody there. I was by myself and one security guard, and I had to give him $10 in order for me, because you got to remember, Egypt is a Muslim country, and I had to say Hebrew words. So I gave him $10, which is a lot of money in currency, because it's I think the transfer rate is $1 equals $1 American dollar equals $17 in Egyptian pounds. So I gave him $10, US $10, and I said my mantra that I said down at the river, and just like this, but really loud. It actually shook the whole place, and he got really scared. The guy got really scared, but it was just this: El, Kiddosh, Kiddosh, Kiddosh. Hey Nani, hey Nani, hey Nani. But I said it really loud, and the whole place started to vibrate. I mean, really vibrate. And he freaked out. He said, "You have to stop." I said, "Look, man, I already paid you the $10. Let me continue." So
Right?
I did it 3 more times. But yeah, he was freaking, because he said, he said to me in broken English, "I've never felt it vibrate like this before." And I said, "Look, it's been up here for like 50,000 years. Don't worry, it's not going to fall down." So the message got out, and then as soon as I had said that, I stepped out of the chamber, and it was the king's chamber that I was in. I stepped out of the chamber, I stood against the wall, and a voice said to me, "Go to Jerusalem, the city of David." I said, okay, I'm going. So that's just what I did. The next morning I was on a plane. So
Before I continue from Jerusalem, which I'm going to, just in case we get sidetracked, I'm going to mark that to continue that from. Let me just catch up on what else is written in the chat. This is a comment from Metalhead, and I want you to take the comment and respond to it because it's more of a comment slash question. So I'll just read it the way it is. Metalhead says, L is a demon. What would you say to that?
oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, the guy really doesn't know anything. I mean, he might know something, but buddy, whoever you are, or Cash, whatever, buddy, I've met with not only Judaic scholars but rabbinical scholars. You also have to know that there's Aramaic people. The stuff that most people know is just basic ground level stuff. El is power. El is the name of the first God. It's his only name. Every other name, even Hashem, which the Jews call him Hashem, which means is Hebrew for the name. It's not correct. It's incorrect. It's El. So demon. There are plenty of demons. Let me tell you this, and I can actually, in the NASA photo, I can show you the demons, and the demons are actually all from the Watchers who made kids with humans and called the Nephilim. Yes, they're here. Yes, they've been here for ever since time began, and it's one of the reasons why I had to go to the city of David. So I can tell you all about that. Yes, there are demons, but El is not one of them. El's the main guy, and whoever said that has no idea what they're talking about.
You just mentioned the Watchers. Are you referring to the documentary series made by L.A. Marzulli and the late Richard Shaw?
No, I'm talking. Well, I don't know who that is, but the Watchers are from the Book of Enoch, and they're actually they were people who work for El. Okay, but then what happens is they actually mutinied. Not all of them, some of them, like 200 of them. They left their watching posts, came down and started having sex with humans before the time of Noah, in the time of Enoch.
With the daughters of men, right? That's what you mean.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah. And what they did was they had, not all their kids were giants, but a lot of them were. They were evil giants. And what happened was they had these kids, and they called the kids the Nephilim. And they were. That's as a matter of fact. All that's true. So if you have a chance, read the Book of Enoch. It's true. Everything he writes. And as a matter of fact, Enoch, he went up to heaven, and he actually measured heaven and told everybody in his book where certain things where like the Watchers, where they stayed, where God and the Tree of Life are, where the serpent is. And you know what? In the NASA photo, it's exactly where Enoch says it was. Everywhere. So I've met with hundreds of people, like I said, with the rabbis and with priests and stuff, and they've seen it, but it just freaks them out. So and they hate to admit it's true, but but it is. And so I lost my place. What were we talking about?
Well, before I pick up back to Jerusalem, there was another thing that popped in the chat just to catch up to it, and let me get it here. Tammy George, one of the super chatters, thank you again. She says, Dr. J, can you ask if he knows about the sounds of Solomon?
The sounds of Solomon? No, I really don't. But anything that has to do with vibration, pitch, and frequency, yes. It's true. There was a movie that was made, one of the alien movies, where just recently, like about maybe four years ago, where the guy goes on the craft and he's like a robot, and there's a flute and he plays certain notes, and then everything comes to life, like everything turns on. Well, when you do this, when you stand in the water and you say these words, like I told you to say, everything in your head will click on. It will click. Your whole brain will open up, and you'll be able to experience what I've experienced. Maybe not exactly, but you will have an experience. Trust me. So back to the sounds of Solomon. I'm sure Solomon had some kind of pitch or frequency or thing, because I don't know if you know this, Doctor, but all the kings of Jerusalem, whenever they were king, they would put oil on their head. They were anointed as king, but they always stood in the water, in the water in Jerusalem, and then they were anointed. But it always had to do with earth and water.
That would make sense. I've heard from several other people when they go to meditate remote view, when they do it in their homes, lying on their bed, even in yoga positions, but they're doing it on concrete or wood or whatever it be, carpet, they don't get the same effects as when they're connecting with nature. Two
That's right.
things. One, just like you said, they have to take their shoes and socks off and connect with the earth, not on rock,
That's
like
it.
you said, exactly on the soil. And some people also go as far as while they're meditating, not just, you know, walking through nature, but touching trees as well. So this totally falls in line with what we've been shown to be effective for a long time.
I agree with you 100%.
Now, back to Jerusalem. So El told you you should go there. What happened there? You just told us what happened with a person there who thought things were going to fall from the vibration. First time that person's ever felt a vibration. What happened after that?
Well, the, the, what happened was now. See, I don't know what you were talking about at the end there. What was the last thing you said?
You were
Somebody
just
fell.
talking about you did this the chants, right? And the person that you paid $10 to started to
Oh, that was in the Great Pyramid in Egypt.
Okay, that was Egypt. Okay, then you were told by El to go to Jerusalem. Let's pick up from there.
Yes. Okay. So I go to Jerusalem, and L said. Now, when I say L, now you can remember it's not like he shows up every time and talks to me. I'll be asleep and I'll hear a voice that says, it will say, because you got to remember I'm in Jerusalem, and Jerusalem is the center of every religious thing, and Egypt, the whole Egypt area, the whole Turkey and Syria and Iraq and that whole area there, it all has to do with, it's not geography, it's geology. That part of the earth is easily controlled by El because of by the Great Pyramid and the electromagnetic energy in that part of the world. So when I say that remember we were talking about the Nephilim and the Watchers that fell, that they're all in that certain part of the world where like by Gobekli Tepe and the that whole area. Okay, the same with Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a major area because that's where good and evil spirits, souls, all kind of. It's almost like a melting pot. That's where they all end up. Okay, before they're dispersed. So what happens is El says to me in a dream. So I'm staying in the Muslim section, the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem, and I'm asleep, and I hear this voice, and it's El, and in my dream, and he says, Gary, go to the Hezekiah's tunnel and say these words in Hebrew, and that's all he says. So naturally, I get up next morning, walk down to the city of David, stand in the water in my bare feet. The water's running in this cave. But unlike the Great Pyramid, though, Dr. J, is there's hundreds of people in this cave. Because in this cave, it's actually Hezekiah's tunnel. The tunnel starts at one end, it goes out the other. So there's hundreds of people, tourists. So I said to them, these groups, I said, listen, would you do me a favor? I have to stand in the water. Can you guys hold off for 1 second and not, because you're supposed to keep continuously walking. You're not supposed to stop. I said, look, I'm supposed to say these words. Well, all the tourists were so sweet. They stopped and let me stand in the water and yell out these other Hebrew words that I said. And they go, what is this? And I said, look, it's too annoying to tell you, but just bear with me. So I said it really, really loud. But all these tourists who were from Germany and France and from Thailand and from Japan, they all waited for me to yell out my mantra, which I thought was awesome. So yeah, so I did that. Then that night, when I got back to the hotel, El said to me in another dream, said, I'm going to show you where you can find Noah's Ark, and I want you to share this information with everyone. I said, fantastic. So so there you go. So that's what happened.
And so I'm assuming long after that you came home. When did and even there probably I'm sure you wanted to tell the world what you experienced and how they could do it themselves too, right?
Yes, and I did. I actually met with a couple rabbis who were scholars, and get ready for this, Doctor. Now you got to remember, Dr. J, that like when you're an Orthodox Jew, what you do is you pray 3 times a day. You pray 3 times a day at the West Wall most times, if you can get to the West Wall. You know, the Wailing Wall there at the Temple Mount, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And what you ask for is you ask for God to send a Messiah, and you ask God to build the third temple. You know the third temple. You're familiar with that thing?
That you got to freshen me up on there. I've net to
the
be
third,
there.
The third temple. You know, Solomon built the first temple, which housed the Ark of the Covenant.
Yes.
Okay, and then what happens is the Babylonians knocked that down. Okay, the second temple was built like 3 or 5 years, or maybe a few years after Christ was crucified, and then it was knocked down by the Romans. So the Ark had been missing. The Ark of the Covenant had been missing since Solomon's times. Well, what the Jews are praying for is because they don't have a place to pray. It's been knocked down twice, so they want a third one to be built, right? Well, and in the NASA photo, the third temple is in the NASA photo, and El told me that mankind, man or the Jews, do not have to build the third temple. It's already built. Okay. So what happens is hold on, I forget your question now as I'm going on with this. What was it?
I was asking about when you started to tell the world of your experiences and what you discovered.
Yeah, right. What happened was I meet with these 2 rabbis, and I show them everything, and one of them starts to cry, and he said, "Gary, it's coming true, isn't it?" I said, "Yeah, they're already here." I said, "That's El, that's Hashem, that's the Jewish God. You guys were right." And they said, "Yeah, but we don't want to believe that Hashem looks like that." And I said, "You're going to nitpick?" I said, "You've been praying for over 2,000 years for the temple to show up and for Hashem to show up." And he goes, "Well, where's the Messiah?" I said, "I don't think there's going to be a Messiah." I said, "I'm pretty sure Jesus was the Messiah." I said, "But in a different way, not in the way everybody's been taught." I said, "This is Hashem. This is God. This is the God of Noah, the God of Abraham, the God of David, the God of Moses, the God of Moses." And I said, "And this is him." So they start crying. The one guy starts crying, and he said, "I'm not ready." And I go, "Well, you better get ready," because they've been praying 3 times a day for this to happen, and now it's happening. And I said, "Now you don't want?" And I checked with them later. They didn't tell anybody what I showed them.
Oh,
they wouldn't share it with anybody.
That sounds like society has influenced them, that this is nonsense, and they're too scared to share it, even though they probably agree with you and believe it.
Yeah, well, sure. Well, I showed them the Garden of Eden. You can't help but see it, and, and the same with your what the heck are they called? Your listeners. They will see it if they look at that video on your website of me explaining how to see it. You'll see everything. It's there. They'll see it.
Now, even though I told everyone in the chat, I wrote to save the questions for the last 30 minutes, which is in about 25 minutes to 30 minutes. There is one I wanted to ask you from Third Phase of the Moon, again, for everyone. I know I keep saying this because it's important for you all to understand the influence that Blake and Brent Cousins in Hawaii have with their channel Third Phase of the Moon. Like I said, the world's largest. And they are my mentors. Next month in May, I will, me and Blake and Brent will talk about how we connected 8 years ago. But beside from that, let me read this to you, Gary. What's Gary's thoughts on Dr. Sam Osmanagic, I hope I said that properly, PhD, claims that Gobekli Tepe is an energy machine. Gobekli Tepe is in eastern Turkey, arguably the oldest megalithic site in the world.
Yes. Are you asking me if I think it's a power source?
That's the first question. What are your thoughts on Dr. Sam Blank, PhD, claims that Gobekli Tepe is an energy machine? Yes, exactly.
Here's first of all, Gobekli Tepe is where Noah's Ark landed. Okay, it was built. Gobekli Tepe was built by Noah, and to just know this though, also that Noah was not completely human. He was half of a watcher. His father was a watcher. Okay, and I'm going to explain to your listeners how they can actually see a thing called the Noah signal. And this was told to me by El, just like I told you guys to stand in the water and say and to say the words. I'm going to tell you right now how you can see Noah. Okay, are you ready,
Yes.
Doc?
Absolutely.
Okay, first, and also in that picture I drew of the and on pillar number 43 of the baskets, that's Noah's Ark. Okay, it's a coracle boat, a giant round coracle boat. Those baskets, what those baskets contained were humans, Nephilim, and also animals. And it was massive. It was giant. And that Noah's Ark was built by Noah and the Nephilim. Okay, and they were so far advanced than us, so much further advanced than us. That's why Gobekli Tepe is 13,000 years old. But it's many things. But the one thing it is, it's an SOS. Okay, and this is how you can see it. Dr. J, I sent you a photo of Gobekli Tepe from a satellite image.
Let me get that up here.
Do you have that?
I do. While you are speaking, I will grab that in here.
Now, everybody, here's what you do. You can go to Zoom Earth. And you can type in Gobekli Tepe, okay? Now, here's the problem. Gobekli Tepe right now, for the past 3 years or 4 years, has had a roof over it. Gobekli Tepe was originally, it was made to be seen from space. It wasn't made to have a roof over it, but naturally they did it to protect it, which I totally understand. When you go to Zoom Earth and you Google Gobekli Tepe, it will take you to a spot that's not Gobekli Tepe. It will say Gobekli, okay? So you have to move a little further up, a little north, and to the right, and you'll see the words Gobekli Tepe. So if you write in Gobekli Tepe, it takes you to Gobekli, not Gobekli Tepe. So you have to move your cursor up so the map moves a little bit, and you'll get right to Gobekli Tepe, because you'll see it. It will say Gobekli Tepe. What you do is that photo from Zoom Earth is from 2014. Okay, that's before they put the roof over Gobekli Tepe. Okay, now with that photo, what you'll do is you'll zoom in on Gobekli Tepe. You'll see the unearthed portion of the ruins there. Okay, and you'll see that it almost looks like there's a square swimming pool. It will be blue. It'll be very blue, and it looks like a swimming pool. That's not a swimming pool. What that is just a roof over a section of the site. But you're going to look at that area. It's circular, and it's got kind of has circles in it. What you're going to do is you're going to use a laptop computer. You have to use a laptop computer, and you're going to zoom in on that area. Then what you're going to do is you're going to reach under your computer, and you're going to open the screen as wide as it can go, and you're going to lift the keyboard up, and you're going to make the room dark as possible. You're going to tilt your laptop back so the screen is going towards your thighs or towards your knees or to the tabletop. What you're going to see then is you're going to see a man's face appear right where that whole area where the swimming pool is. That's going to be his hair and it's part of his head. And his skin is going to be snow white. And he's going to have jet black hair, and he's going to have a mustache and a little goatee. And he's going to look like an alien. But when I say an alien, he's going to be human, but his skin is going to be so snow white. Now, after you see it, what you're going to do is you're going to zoom back out a little bit. The further out you zoom, the more in focus he's going to become. That is Noah. That's the Noah signal. Why is that there? Because when they landed at Gobekli Tepe and they built that temple there, they were asking El to get us the hell off of this planet because they were surrounded by water and they were desperate. So, and they were also asking for forgiveness. And as a matter of fact, and you got to remember that these are Nephilim, and they weren't all giants. Like I said, they were normal-sized beings. Some of them were giants, but they ended up getting drowned. But the normal-sized ones, who were half and half alien, half human, they made it onto the ark. They built Gobekli Tepe. They put all the characters there, on the reliefs, on the pillars. So, if you will, do what I told you. Use your laptop computer, and you will see Noah. That's the signal, and that's them asking for. So in the Bible, it says that Noah built a shrine or an altar and sacrificed an animal. That's ridiculous. He only had 2 animals apart. How could you even think about sacrificing an animal? That's ridiculous. They built that, and you will see. And a lot of it has not been unearthed, but every part of Gobekli Tepe, from space, you will see people's faces, all the ones that are unearthed. But the only one that's unearthed is the one that I'm telling you about, and that's Noah's face.
Yeah. And so Noah, because you said Noah built Gobekli Tepe, and I
With the Nephilim.
believe,
Yes.
yeah, with the Nephilim, and I believe, from what I recall from the last few people that have talked about it, is that about 30,000, give or take, years old or older?
Gobekli Tepe is 13,000 years old.
13. Okay, so that
13,000.
that's when we can place Noah. At the time, that's when he was alive. Because obviously, if that's what he built, then we know he was around. I don't know if he lived, what, 800, whatever, how many years, maybe
Yeah,
1,200.
they weren't human. You got to remember that they lived for thousands of years. That's why they see at Gobekli Tepe. There's other, like as you go further, 70 miles east and 70 miles south. There's other circular enclosures that where people lived, and they built the same types of things. Big columns with that actually represent El, and actually Asherah, which is the tree of life. But what happens is they built those because, and they built them all over the place because these beings lived for thousands of years, and they were asking, please come pick us up. We want to get off this planet. Please forgive us. Let us come back. And they were never picked up, and they ended up dying. Oh, there it is. There's the picture. That's perfect. Okay, if Gobekli Tepe, if you guys look at the picture that's there, right down on the right-hand side, you can see, like I said, there's a little pool area. It's blue. It's down on the right, and it almost looks like a guy's hair and a guy's face. Can you see it at all, Dr. J?
Yes, I can. I've never
It's
actually
down on the
thought
right,
about it
and
that
that's
way.
the unearthed portion or the uncovered version portion of the ruins that you have to look at. That's where Noah is. So, like I said, zoom in on that area. You'll see the pool. That's part of his hair, and you'll see him. And just know this too, Doctor. I have a Lenovo laptop and a Toshiba laptop. They both work perfectly. Some people have told me that their Apple computers do not work. So some laptops don't work. So if you can't see him, get another laptop, like borrow one from a friend or use it, but you will see him. But that's the Noah signal. That was the signal of Noah and the Nephilim and the humans saying, "Please help us, get us out of here."
Well, I am happy that I have both a MacBook and a couple of Windows PCs of different varieties, of different brands, obviously. So at least I could be able to do it. So thank you for telling me that. Now, if you're able to see the screen, can you describe what this is? Is this, I'm assuming, a representation of possibly L?
That's exactly what it is. What that is that this is a figurine that was discovered at Gobekli Tepe. It's now in the museum in Baghdad, and oh no, not Baghdad. I can't remember, but it's in a museum, and it's a carving. And this also represents El as the big pillar. The big pillars are of El, and the one next to him is of the tree of life, who is Asherah. So yes, as a matter of fact, Dr. J, I actually sent away to the museum, and they sent me I bought one of those little statues, which I sent you. But yeah, that's of El, exactly.
Now, have you? When did this happen? When did you first make contact with El, then visit Jerusalem, and then really started to put things together? Specifically, the contact time frame, maybe a year.
Okay, I started off in 2015 when I had the idea of world peace by restoring the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx.
So we're talking 5 years ago. That was the precursor to what I'm about to ask you. Since this happened, and unless there's more you want to talk about Jerusalem, since you've been back to the United States, have you started to gather groups of people to do group contact?
No. Well, I have not, because Dr. J, I live in a small area of Phoenix, and I terrify people. It scares them. It scares them because it's not something that, look, you've been taught, most people here have been taught that, Jesus is the main guy, and then if you're they don't want to believe in aliens. They don't want to believe that there's 11 other that there's 7 other dimensions. They don't want to believe these kinds of things. They think that's all hokum or mumbo jumbo, but it's not. It's actually science, and these beings are millions of years more advanced than we are, and we human beings on Earth, it's almost like we are a soul gas station. They use us as fuel to move on to different. We're here to evolve. Our souls to evolve, and they use us. They use our souls as energy to propel them across the universe, so they can establish other planets and go on and on and on, deeper and deeper, so they can learn more. Because a lot of people have been taught that God knows everything. Well, they don't. Nobody does. El doesn't know everything. He's not perfect. Everybody says, "Well, Jesus was perfect." No, he was more human. His mother and father, they were human. The only thing is in the NASA photo, if you look at it, you will see that Jesus had like 16 souls. When he was crucified, he 8 of his souls died on the cross. He didn't die. He had a wife and 2 kids, and he had plenty of grandchildren. But it's a whole to-do. I don't want to get too much into it, Dr. J, but believe me when I tell you, if people just go down to the river, they stand in the water, they say those things, they'll be able to see what I see, and it will be so much easier to believe, and because you'll actually see it by looking at the NASA photo. So.
I could promise you this. Generally, I don't go back and listen to my shows because I absorb enough well, but you have some very distinct directions that I am going to obviously hear this. I will take groups of people and do this myself and film it, and of course, either be on FaceTime with you or Skype with you, video. That way you can see when we actually do this, because there's rivers, as you know, in proximity of where I am, and obviously at least streams fairly close by. Now there's a few questions in the chat, but I've written in the chat that I'm going to stall for their questions for another 10-15 minutes, so me and you can lay more out before I go into them, because once I start, it's kind of going to be, their questions for the majority of the rest. Now, what else do you think is important for us to know that we haven't touched on yet?
Well, the main thing to know is this. You remember how I told you there's a thing with El, you just had it up on the screen, and it says God and the Lord of the underworld, okay? Well, they work together, and what they do is when you're born, you don't have just one soul. All humans are born with 2 souls, and one's good, one's bad. Okay, and what happens is for the good soul to evolve, it's the choices you make in life. Okay, so what happens is this is the main thing. This is everything. You don't have to belong to any religious group. You don't have to give money to anybody. All you have to do is the golden rule. You have to treat people the way you want to be treated. That's it. That's the whole message. Now, yes, they're coming back, and yes, we're going to learn a lot more. But the main thing in life is the golden rule. That's it. As a matter of fact, if you read any of the Bible or the Quran or the Torah,
which, by the way, for everybody out there who may have not studied religions in mass, those 3 religions, as you mentioned when you were in Israel, literally come from there, because the Muslims have their own section because of that. To them is also their religious beginnings, and obviously the Judeo-Christian faith is also. That's why Jerusalem is the center for 3 faiths.
Yes, and it's also the melting pot for souls.
Yes.
So and just know this, I know I'm giving people a lot of information. I don't want to go on and on, but the thing is that, like I said, the main thing is most of the Bible and most of all the religious books, it's all commentary. The main thing is treat people the way you want to be treated. Be nice. Don't be mean. You know what I mean? Practice the golden rule. That's it. That's how you get it. Yes, there's a heaven. Yes, there's a hell. Do we get to stay there? No, we move through it. It's like a soul factory, and the better we become as people, and the more our souls evolve, the more when we're reincarnated, because it's all about reincarnation. The better the world is, and the better other worlds will be. But it all comes from the golden rule.
Now, you mentioned that the El is very human looking, but with with chalk white skin, right?
No, that was Noah.
Oh, okay. No. Sorry, Noah. Okay, what color of skin was?
Noah looks like one of the Watchers. Thousands of Watchers, tens of thousands. They actually come from Scorpius, which is, as a matter of fact, let me mention this, Doctor, just real quick. Remember how you were saying what kind of signs that will show that L is showing up other than the NASA photo and that kind of thing?
Yes.
Remember? Okay, I'm going to tell everybody what's going to come. There's going to be a supernova in the Cygnus constellation, and it's going to be, and this is documented by astronomers and everybody else. Okay, the call letters, you can Google it. It's K as in kick, K-I-C as in cat, K-I-C 983-2227. That's kick, K-I-C 983-2227. Look at that, read it. Astronomers have figured out that that in the Cygnus constellation, and that's where L is from, that's where he originates, that there's going to be a supernova. Two stars are going to collide, and what's going to be visible, because I think it's 194,000 light years from Earth, but it's going to be visible with the naked eye between June and July of 2022. That is L's calling card. The sky will turn red. Not the whole sky, but a certain part of it will turn red. And that L on the picture right there that you have on screen, that is his calling card. Supernova KIC 983-2227 in the Cygnus constellation. So that's him. That's where he's from. And as a matter of fact, in the NASA photo that I sent you, I have L's head outlined on the Giza Plateau, and in red. And then beside him, looking east, moving east, there's a squiggly cross, and the cross is a 8-lane freeway and the Nile River. Well, that represents the Cygnus constellation. So anyway, so I wanted to mention that as far as a sign goes. Yep, there it is there. But it's a little big right now, so you can't see the squiggly cross. Oh, missed it. But anyway, go ahead, Doctor. What else were you going to ask?
The 10-year period. First of all, before I even go to there, you just mentioned when the skies turn red. Isn't that another prophecy that was written in the Bible as well? Is that the reason why he's coming about in 2022?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Yeah, now, what is that prophecy as detailed as an astronomer today who said, the astronomers today that say KIC 983-2227 is going to be a supernova? Probably not. Sometimes the Bible and the Torah and stuff, the guys were guessing. So they were hoping and guessing. Not all the time, but a lot of times. Plus, like I said before, the religious books were written by men, and the men wanted to control people. So you can't go by every word isn't God's word. You know what I mean? Isn't L's word. So it kind of got distorted as time went on. So go ahead.
In 2012, when L came back to Israel, was there anything?
No, to Egypt.
He came back to Egypt, but in 2022, is the revelation going to come from Jerusalem, Israel, or is it going to come from Egypt?
He's going to show up. He's going to reveal himself in Jerusalem.
Yeah, at the Temple Mount, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's where
exactly.
I got. Sorry, a little confused on the
no problem.
Details.
This is a lot of information.
I know, and you know what?
I appreciate your patience.
In the beginning, when you said you've done 4, I can already tell you right now we're going to need at least a few more 2-hour shows because there's so much of this, and it needs to get out there. The more it's in the public, then people will actually take this upon themselves to try. If people don't want to go in groups of 30 to 100 or more, like you said, go yourself and grab someone so you're not alone. Now,
and so they video. Make sure they
film
video
it. Yes.
Just like how I told you and your audience how to see Noah's signal. That's the same way you have to see the Garden of Eden and the third temple in the NASA photo. Also, when you go down to the river and you have someone video you, and you can do it in the daytime. Don't worry, daytime, nighttime. Don't do it at night. Do it in the daytime. Anytime during the day. And when they video you with their iPhone, you'll be able to download it, and then you'll be able to put it on your laptop, tilt it back, and see if anything showed up. Because these beings are fifth-dimensional beings. You can't see them just flat. You can't just see them flat. They're not third-dimensional. They're fifth-dimensional. So for some reason, when you tilt the computer screen, That's how they see us. That's how we see them.
So why 10 years? I'm still confused about that. But then again, 10 years to them is not like 10 years to us if they live thousands of years.
That's it. People have said to me same thing about Christianity. They go, well, about Christianity. They say, Gary, it's been 2,000 years. These things live hundreds of thousands of years. 2,000 years to them is like a weekend. That's nothing to them. So yes, and the other thing too is just know this, that L, when you see L, he's not alone. There are thousands of his species, and a few of them are in the NASA photo. But there's a lot on the planet in Cygnus. There are a whole race of these things, and they all manage hundreds and hundreds of planets, and they do the same thing over and over again. So, because someone said to me one time, "Well, Gary, are you saying there were like thousands of Jesuses?" Well, yeah, but he was different for Earth because of the problem with the Nephilim. The Watchers, when they mutinied on L and they came down and started having sex with the humans. That was our problem. That's why humans had so many wars and so many problems, because these souls are still alive. They're still here, and they still influence humans. And that's why Jesus was born, and that's why he has helped El control these demon/Nephilim souls and fallen Watcher souls. So he's a big deal. Jesus is a big deal. He's a great guy. He did a lot for mankind and still is doing it. So he's a good guy. Anyway, go ahead. Back to your question.
Well, now I'm starting to get backtracked into questions in the chat. If it's okay with you, maybe I can start taking them. Okay, let me go in reverse order, and everybody who I've written to copy your questions and repaste them as we got to now, go ahead and do so, and let me start from the third one from the top of the bottom. That way I can pick up from there and just go down the list. This is from Carl Egon Wilkstrom. Question: What do you know about jinns?
Oh, I know nothing about that. I know that jinns is some kind of Muslim demon or something like that, right? The jinn is a demon, but that's all I know. I don't know anything about that stuff.
That's exactly the way I understand it. Yes.
That's all I know. It's some kind, it's some kind of demon, like Arabic demon or something like that. And to tell you the truth, I'm sure it will end up being from the Nephilim, from those souls, because you got to remember something, Dr. J, is when the Watchers, 200 of them came down and started having sex with women. When they got kicked out of heaven, what happens is their vibrations were changed. That meant that they and their children they could not go back to heaven. They could not get to hell. They are in a spot, and this is in the book of Enoch, below hell, and it's in the NASA photo. They're trapped there, and they're all really pissed off. They've been trapped there, and they've been finding ways since 13,000 years ago, getting out of there. They can get out, and they can influence certain humans and certain things and certain wars, and so this jinn character, I'm sure, will end up being some demonic soul from the Nephilim. There's no doubt in my mind, but I really don't know what jinn are.
Norman de Prince, what do these aliens, in this case, the alien, consume for life? ? Vegan? ?
Souls, human souls.
Which is actually ironic you said that, because this is something John Lear said in the late 80s. So this is really interesting to tie information up. Okay. Pam Vrettenberg writes, okay, let me hope this one is spelled properly, or I hope I don't mispronounce it. What does he have to say about the red, is it heifer, Heifer, anything?
I have no idea. Oh, the red heifer. Yes, what it is the red heifer. It's a certain cow that it's supposed to be like there's no flaws in it, and what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to sacrifice it in the third temple. That's what they used to sacrifice. But let me tell you this: El does not want any animals or human sacrifice. That's ridiculous. It's 2020. We don't need sacrifices of any kind. No little animal has to be killed for El. It's ridiculous. There will be no property damage and no sacrifices. That's ridiculous. That's totally ridiculous. The L doesn't want that. He's millions of years more advanced than us. The only reason why they did that in the past was to show people how to cook meat, how to make sure that it was pure, clean enough to eat. Biblical people, they were a little dirty. So he was showing them how to actually prepare it. And they used it as yes, they used it in, what are they called, religious ceremonies. But no, it's 2020. No more sacrifices. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, here we go. Tammy George. What happens, and thank you, Tammy, by the way, for the super chat. What happens when we die?
What happens when you die is this. First of all, this is everything I'm telling you is in the NASA photo. You're going to go in a white tunnel. You're going to end up on a path. People that you knew after you died are going to show up that are dead. They're dead already. They're going to take you, and you're going to get in a long, long line. Like, that's if you were a good person. If you were a bad person, first of all, you're going to get in a long, long line, a huge line. It's good. The line's like 90 to 100 years long. It's massive. Okay.
Ouch. It's a long time.
It's long. So wear comfortable shoes. So what happens is then you're going to actually end up being judged by L. And then L will take your soul and put it at the appropriate place. You'll either come back to heaven, you'll either come back to Earth, or you'll move on to another dimension, or you go to another planet, and your soul will be what's it called, Doctor?
I don't want to say revived, but
no. What do they call it? It's called oh my God!
When it comes back to live another life somewhere else, right?
Yes. What is that called? I've just went blank.
I'm blowing blank too because it's obviously not
anyway,
revived.
But if you've been bad, say you've murdered people, you're a horrible human being. What will happen is you will fall off the path. You won't even make it on the path, and you will go to where the Lord of the Underworld is. And let me just say this, guys: it's a horrible, horrible place. And the bad thing is this: you will actually stay in the body that you were in, and you will feel everything, and you will see everything, and you'll know that you're in this place. When you go into the good area, it's actually a relaxing time, and you turn into like a gold type being. It's all in the NASA photo. So just know this: guys like Hitler, guys like Stalin, guys like Kim Jong-un, and these horrible people, there's a big price to pay, and it's terrifying and it's painful. So go ahead.
I would think so, honestly, especially.
It's called resurrection.
No. Duh, yeah, resurrection, yeah, and that.
No, not resurrection, Come on, it's called. Oh my God, Dr. J, I'm blanking.
So am I. If it's not reviving, if it's not living another soul with your memory wiped, maybe that one word will come to me or you in a moment. But I think people are getting the idea that our soul never dies. And if you
That's right, your soul never dies. Exactly. All the things that you've known, all the good things that you know, everything that can be passed on, you will. It will go into another body. And they'll use it, believe me.
Now,
reincarnation.
Jeez, how can I have forgot that too?
Oh my God. Reincarnation. That's what it's all about. Reincarnating the soul. That's how it's done throughout the whole universe. Reincarnation.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I've been a firm believer of what you do in this life will determine where you go at the end. And
Absolutely.
I'm a huge believer in karma, but also, as you mentioned earlier, the golden rule. It didn't take Sunday school for me to be taught this. This was just kind of me in general, because if I treated someone horribly and I put myself in their shoes, I don't want to be treated like crap. So you treat people with respect. That way you can, have the same thing back to the golden rule. Anyhow, okay.
Well, just also, if I can say this, we all make mistakes. We're human. No one's perfect. We're all going to make mistakes. We're all going to treat people mean sometimes. We're going to say things that are evil and mean. But just don't kill anybody. Don't rape any kids. Don't hurt any women, and you're going to be okay. But just know that we all make mistakes. And that's because we're humans.
Yeah,
So
and that's part of learning. And especially if we make mistakes, that we acknowledge we're mistakes. And if we caused any harm, if we do whatever it takes to mitigate that harm, and if we're truly sorry, then that's just another process for us to get to the next enlightened level.
there you go. Exactly. Even though
Question.
when El shows up, what will happen is the Jews are the chosen people, and there's a whole reason why they're the chosen people, and it's a long story, but they are. And what's going to happen is El is going to when he's in Jerusalem, everything is going to go to the Jews first. They're going to have everything. They're going to have knowledge of things of dimensions you just won't believe. They'll know everything, and then it will trickle down to the rest of the world. But they're going to get it first. They're going to have all the knowledge and all the power. And so I forget what my point was, but that's how it's going to work. And we're all going to end. Because you said we're all going to evolve. Our souls will evolve and be nicer and everything. But that's what will happen. So yeah, go ahead.
The next question. This is Louis Burkhead. Who is the Antichrist, if you know?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I'm all for Christ. He's a great guy. He's, like I said, he worked in the past for El. He works now for El. He's got 3 big jobs with El. And I'm a total. Jesus is a great guy. Is he God? No. Does he forgive you for your sins? No. Does he have that ability? No. But he does some things that you wouldn't believe, or you would believe maybe, that help mankind even today. He's amazing. He was a great guy, and he took one for the team. He really did. A lot of people say, well, Jesus, they beat him and he was crucified. Yes, he was. But he knew it. He knew that was coming. And you know what he said? He said, you know what? If it's going to help all of mankind, I'll do it. And I think most of us would do that. We would say, if this is going to help everybody, go ahead, beat the hell out of me, tack me up on a cross. Did he die in the photo? No, he's not dead. I asked El, no. Jesus didn't die. He had 2 boys. He had a bunch of grandchildren, and they were not raised in Jerusalem.
I'm glad you brought that up, because this revives Mary Magdalene, and
Yeah.
I know people now, a lot more than 20 to 100 to 1,000, etc. years ago, are finally really starting to make some connections and see that it's not unfathomable to believe that Jesus at that time would have done what any normal man and married and had children, because that was just the form then.
Yeah, back in biblical times in Jerusalem, you're not a 33 or a 30-year-old rabbi and not married and not have kids. In the photo, it shows that he was married, he had 2 boys, and then in the photo, it shows that he gets older and older and older. In the NASA photo, it shows God sitting beside the tree of life. And Jesus is by him, but Jesus is an older Jesus and a heavier Jesus. It's not like a 33-year-old Jesus that you would imagine. But it's all in the NASA photo, and if you watch the video that's on your website, you'll be able to see it. It just takes a little time and a little patience. Go ahead, Doctor.
Lasha Senyuk, was it ever told to him by them why water is so important? If so, why?
It's a conduit between planes. A conduit between planes means you can stand in it, you yell out a certain vibration or frequency, and it will send a message out. It actually enhances the message going out into space or into the worlds or the dimensions that are within the Earth. The Earth isn't just a 3-dimensional place. There's 11 dimensions here.
Oh,
and
yeah, and I know
are living beings. So just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. And it's proof in the NASA photo. It shows all 11 dimensions in one space, all occupying the same space at the same time. Woo,
and mathematicians have actually really started to accept this theory. Those who are willing to look into things that are undiscovered and realize that what we knew isn't complete. I've talked to a lot of people who won't even touch topics like we're talking about, yet they have no problem saying whatsoever that there are multiple dimensions.
Well, certainly there are. There are, and there's a thing called string theory, which is about that. Now, I don't know a lot about string theory, but everything works on vibration, and the simple explanation is this: You know how there's thousands of radio stations and they're all on a different frequency? Well, that's just what it is. Everything vibrates differently. So in the other dimensions, it's on a different frequency. It's on a different vibration. The Earth has so many other worlds in and around it. It's amazing. And you can see a lot of them in the NASA photo. So
this next question is to ask you details of something we talked about. Nicholas Cashmore from Canada is asking, tell us about your telepathic conversation with a space being, meaning L. I guess he's asking for details of what was said.
Well, yeah, what happened was I was standing in the water, and this is after I usually go down once a week, and I stand in the water and I yell up, and I always say, "El, if there's anything you need from me, I'm here. You know, I'm hey Naney, I'm here to help out." And then I just speak just like I'm speaking with you, Dr. J. And I say, if there's anything you need me to do, please contact me, and blah blah blah. Well, 99 times out of 100. I don't hear anything. I might have a dream. I might have a feeling when I look at the NASA photo, because I look at it at least 2 to 3 hours a night, because it's infinite. There's so many things. But the one time that El did show up with the cherubim, with 2 cherubim, one was named Uriel, and they're the guys with the 4 faces. They have the human face. They have the face of the lion. They have the face of the eagle, which actually mine had a raven. He talked to me telepathically, and I talked to him like a normal person because it was blowing me away. But I wasn't afraid. I wasn't afraid at all. And I asked questions. I asked, like, are you coming back? When are you coming back? You know, was Jesus your son? You know, I asked a lot of questions. And eventually he said to me, pretty much, Gary, you have to be quiet. I have to tell you things. Stop talking. I don't have all the time in the world. Now, he didn't say that to me. I heard a voice in my head say that.
This next question is a question to all, and it's basically to ask you to repeat the steps, which for me personally, I already wrote the chanting down, and I'm going to go back specifically to hear them again, but since she's asking live, let me read it to you. Nana M would like to know if you could please repeat what to say when we are standing in water.
Okay, here's what you do. What's her name?
Nana M. N-A-N.
Okay, Nana M, here we go. What you do is you go to a river, okay? It has to have water in it, okay? And it doesn't have to have a lot of water. It doesn't have to. If it's flowing, it's great. What you have to do is you take off your shoes and socks. You have to stand in the water in your bare feet. Make sure you're not standing on stones. You have to be in like the muddy thing where you're connected to the earth. You turn, you face east, okay? I never carry any change or anything. I don't wear any jewelry. And I don't wear sunglasses or a hat. I take it off. I put my hands above my head, and I yell out as loud as I can, really loud. And you have to say it 3 times, this whole phrase 3 times. And you have to say it like this, really loud. El, 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 Kidosh, Kidosh, Kidosh. Hey, Nani, Hey, Nani, Hey, Nani. You got to say that 3 times. El, El, El. Kidosh, 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 Hey Nani, Hey Nani, Hey Nani. Then, after you say that, you can say, ask any question you want. Now, like, let's say you have a family member that's dying of cancer, or someone who's sick. You can't really ask for anything for yourself. You can't say, hey, give me the lottery numbers. You can't say that. You have to ask for someone else. So you have to say something like, hey, my Mr. Michael Stevens Johnson, or Mike Johnson, is dying of cancer. He's young. I really would wish you'd help him out. And just ask. And you know what? It's possible it can happen. Now, only one down here. So that answered that question, correct,
yes.
Dr. J?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so Nanny, I hope that worked out. I hope that works out. Now, one time, a buddy of mine who was a really, really nice guy, I won't mention his name, but he said to me, after he came down, he filmed me, I showed him the Garden of Eden, I showed him everything. He said, Gary, my wife and I have been trying to have kids for 8 years. The doctors say it's impossible. He said, do you think me going down to the river, or I didn't tell you this, Dr. J, there's also a place here in Florence that it's called Poston Butte. On Poston Butte, a butte is a hill that stands by itself that has a flat top. But on top of this hill, this butte, is a pyramid that was built there as a tombstone. It's giant too. It's a big pyramid, and the whole butte, the hill, is in the shape of L's head in every direction. So he said, Gary, if I stand in the water or I go up to the pyramid, and I say these words and I ask for my wife to become pregnant, will it work? I said to him, I have no idea. I don't know if it will work. And just know this too, Dr. J. I have begged people who have cancer here to come down to the river with me, and they're too afraid they won't do it, which is really bizarre to me. So what happens is after he asked me that, 3 months later, he called me because he lived up in Utah. He had a house down here in Florence, and he lives up in Utah. And he goes, Gary, you're not going to believe it. My wife's pregnant with twins. And I go, oh my God! I said, congratulations. Was it what's it called? Artificial insemination? What did you do? Because I'm all for doctors. I'm not all for. I believe in miracles, but I don't think they happen all the time. So he said, Gary, I went up to the top of the butte at Poston Butte, and I stood on top of the pyramid, and I yelled out the words, and I asked, and he said, and I think that's what made it. I said, I'm glad you did it. That's great, but I don't know if it's true. But right now, his kids are 4 years old, and they're twins.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
so
I'm floored by that, actually.
Yeah, no, but like I said, Doctor, I don't know if that was part of it, but it didn't hurt. So I say to people, I have a good friend, her mom, who's 70, sweetest lady in the world, she has cancer. And I said, look, let's just take her down to the river, have her stand in the water. I'll yell up and I'll say, please help this lady because she's getting sick with chemotherapy and all this stuff. I said, it can't hurt. They won't do it. She's like a big Jesus lady. And I said, look, every time he's talking about Jesus, he's always by water or he's outside, talking in nature, and she still won't do it. So it's killing me that she won't do it. So. Anyway.
Well, I'm glad you brought it up in the sense that you did, because it doesn't hurt really to go find a river, take off your shoes and socks, remove any jewelry, hat, sunglasses, and face east and chant in a loud voice. That doesn't harm anyone just to try it. The only thing I could see that people would be reluctant is fear, and then of course people who totally disbelieve, which I'm offended by the way SETI treated you, but I'm not shocked because one of the main rules when I bring Seth on is do not talk about UFO sightings or anything like that. He doesn't want to hear it. He just wants to give me updates on what they're receiving, and which is nothing actually. Okay.
If I can also mention to your audience, if you guys do that, you say the Hebrew really, really loud. After you're done saying the Hebrew, you don't have to talk real loud. You can just talk in a normal voice because through that chant you make the connection. Then you just have to speak like normal, just like we're speaking right now. So you don't have to yell out your request.
Now, this next question is a follow-up from Lasha's question, which was it ever told to him by them? Was it ever told to him by them why water is so important, which you answered. The follow-up to this question from her is, so is he saying that we think of as God is actually an alien?
Yeah, he's definitely an alien. He's from the Cygnus constellation. As a matter of fact, the name of the planet is it's not Satyr. It's right there in Google the Cygnus constellation, Cygnus, and it's called the Swan or the Northern Cross. And he's from the planet. Yeah, he's a huge alien. They're huge. He's massive. So yeah, you really didn't think I just can't fathom that people think that like someone who looks like us could create someone like us. That's ridiculous. But it's actually in the defense, L does have a human side to him. He does look a little bit human in the face, but his head is gigantic. So.
Well, this actually can go along with theories that I've heard time and time again. One of the favorite people I like to quote is Bob Lazar, even though he can't produce anything that he worked at S4. He said a lot of things in 89, 90 that have since come true. And one of them was that ET or ETs, multiple different races, have come to Earth over time in the past few million years and took
Sure.
already evolving primates here, and according to Bob Lazar, had 63 external corrections to make us Homo sapiens, and are currently undergoing the 64th correction, which some people say is the reason for the abductions. Anyhow, let me get to the next one
Yeah,
for you.
I don't know anything about that stuff, Doctor. I swear to God, I have no. I believe that there's aliens and I can see them in the NASA photo. But as far as abductions and all that, I don't know anything about that stuff.
I'm getting one more request, not this moment, but after I get you to plug in where people can find you, any final statements, I'm asking a request. I'm seeing a request for you to repeat the three different chants one more time, which we'll save for
Yeah.
the end.
Well, first of all, anybody who wants to, they can always go to at at gparker36gary on Twitter if you want to do that. Or you can go to this email, g.parker, G is in Gary, g.parker, Parker, 36gary, Gary, at AOL.com. That's g.parker, Parker, 36gary, Gary, at AOL.com.
What was the Twitter handle again?
It's, I almost forgot.
G. Parker.
At G. Parker 36 Gary.
Got it. Oh, they're the same. Yeah. Okay. So one is at AOL, the other is at symbol before it without the AOL.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll tell you one more time. In order to connect with L, all you have to do is go to a river, take off your shoes and socks, stand in the water up to your ankle. You don't have to go up any higher than your ankles, just so you're connected to the water. Remember, the water will enhance the signal, and water is a what did I say? It's a
conductor.
It is, yeah, between planes. Yeah, it's a conduit between
conduit.
planes.
Sorry, conduit. For some reason, conductor came into my head. I don't know about
close enough.
Yeah.
And so what will happen is you stand in the water, you face east, you put your hands above your head, and you yell out in a mantra, El, El, El. Kadosh, 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 Hey Nani, Hey Nani, Hey Nani. And you say that 3 times, and that means power, God, 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 power. That means power. El is power, or God. God, 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 holy, Kadosh is holy. Kadosh, 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 holy, holy, holy. Hey Nani, Hey Nani, Hey Nani is I'm here, send me, which means I'm here, I'll help the world and mankind any way I can. So there you go. And all the prophets in the Hebrew, in the Torah and the Hebrew Bible, all said the same thing. So please do it. Please do it. You'll make the connection, I guarantee you guys.
I promise you that multiple people will do it, including myself, with whatever group I can get. And next time I have you on, we will all have our personal stories of what happened. Okay.
And like I said, make sure they take an iPhone and someone films them doing it, and then download it. And you can always send it to me, because maybe you guys won't see it, but maybe I'll see something that you don't see. And once I point it out, you say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see that." So yeah, because you're not dealing with 3-dimensional beings here. These are 5th-dimensional beings. So
I'm glad you. It's ironic you mentioned that, because remember Interstellar. Christopher Nolan hired some of the best physicists, people who know a lot about, multiple dimensions.
These guys are geniuses. They're geniuses.
Yeah, and that's, if you recall, the 5th dimension beings, which were, in the end turned out to be superhumans, like well beyond, 3rd, 4th, and then to 5th dimension, was them. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up. Links up, the fact that he did bring a lot of people that were really involved in science. Okay, let me get to this one for you so I can catch up to them. Tammy George asks, so if you're moved up to a higher soul, will we remember everything?
Oh gosh, Tammy, I really don't know. I don't know. I'd like to. Actually, in my life, there's a lot of things I'd like to forget. Okay, but I'd hate to remember everything. But I'd like to remember all the good things. But to be totally honest with you, I have no idea.
I'm with you right there. There's a lot. I have a great memory. I can't there's a lot that I can remember. Actually, most that I can remember, even memories when I was, just shy of being 2. The point is, I could never bleach them out of my head. So, hey, if I could selectively choose what to remember and what not to, that'll be a
Exactly.
great day. Okay, Ronin Soul 9 asks, is El Jesus or is El Elohim?
El is Elohim. They're different beings, even though Jesus works for El, and he does a great job, and he's a big deal, big deal for Earth and for mankind. Is he a big deal for the whole universe? No, but he works with El, and Elohim is the main guy. Or El. El is the main guy. Jesus works for him. Everybody works for him. So there you go.
This next one is a comment, which I'm going to read to you because I think it, relates. Jesus and Mary are still together today. Still today. What do you say about that?
Well, in the NASA photo, they're together. So I would like to think that, because in the photo it shows them kissing, and they have like a really great romantic relationship. So I'd like to think that would be sweet. That would really be sweet. So are they together? Let's hope they are.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. Now, Lasha's first 2 questions that were linked, this is the third one linking to the 2 questions. If water is a conduit to dimensions and religions, know this, why are there no water rituals and ceremonies across religions?
That's a great question, because I think in India they have some. I was watching some YouTube videos, and there's a lot of people. I don't know what religion it is, but they stand in water in the Ganges. The Ganges, I think it's called Ganges. And but you know what, everybody, audience, I have begged the priest here. I begged ministers. I begged rabbis. I said, please come down and stand in the water and pray in the water with me. Like, say something. They refused to do it. And I said to them, to every one of them, I said, do you think that when you're in a temple or a church or a synagogue, all the doors and windows are closed, you're wearing shoes and socks, you're not connected to the earth, you're on a cement floor or wood floor, how can El or God or Hashem, how can anybody hear you? They can't hear you because you have a roof. You're wasting your time. I said, please come to the river, be outside in nature, let your prayers and your signal be heard. They refused to do it, all of them. And I'm talking about like a couple hundred people.
This next one is interesting. I haven't been asked this enough times especially to someone of your intellect on these topics. And this reads, this is from Louis Burkhead. What does he think about the cuneiform tablets?
They're amazing. They're amazing. I mean, as a matter of fact, there's a guy by the name of Irving Finkel, and he is he's the leading what would you call it? The leading expert in cuneiform. Did he say cuneiform?
Yeah, I usually pronounce it cuneiform. Yeah, the tablets.
Well, because he wrote a book called The Ark Before Noah, and he says that the ark would be a coracle boat. And he got that from cuneiform that what are they called? Not the Assyrians. Oh gosh, I can't remember. But 3,700 years ago, they wrote about Noah's Ark, and he translated it and said it was a giant coracle boat. So do I think those things? Yeah, those things are amazing, and I think those things are more accurate than anything else. Cuneiform's amazing.
It really is, and it was well before their time. That's for darn sure.
Well, you got to remember though that the Nephilim lived for thousands of years, so they influenced that. Believe me, they were around. These things were around when those things were written, and they helped all that.
Well, they definitely didn't want it written on papyrus where every couple decades they need to replace it. Okay, exactly. We're almost caught up here. Nicholas Cashmore, who built the pyramids with that technology?
Well, as a matter of fact, all in the NASA photo, let me just say this. The pyramids are machines, okay, especially the Great Pyramid. It's a vibration machine, and it runs on solar, and it still works today. That is how all the images in the NASA photo got to be there. It was done through vibration over like a 30-year period, and it was done so slightly that that no one ever noticed that it was being done. So it's a machine. It still works. And who made it? Were people that work for El. And there are actually, in ancient Egypt, there were these two gods. The creator god was Ptah and Sekhmet. Ptah and Sekhmet were not mythological beings. They were aliens. They're the engineers. They're the ones that did it. They're the ones that built it. And at the time that the pyramids were built, which was approximately 50,000 years ago, men were still apes. So the whole Khufu thing and that whole nut, no human being had anything to do with the Great Pyramid of the Sphinx. Trust me.
Yeah, no, I'm actually 100% in agreement with you. And I recall when I was first told the history and they dragged giant rocks with slave labor, with no wheels. I mean, it rang of BS back when I was a child.
When they repaired it, at Khufu's time, they were repairing the Great Pyramid of the Sphinx. Yes, they dragged the things then. They used the Nile. Yes. But when it was first built, that was 50,000 years ago. Men were apes. We were all apes. Khufu was an ape. Trust me. Anyway, so hey, Doctor, I hate to tell you this now, because we were good. We were supposed to be on from 5 to 7.
I was just going to say we're actually caught up with the questions. I want you to hang by one quick moment so I could thank you off here. But if you are in a hurry, I was going to say this is your time to say any final statements. And if you want to plug in where people can find you one more time, even though I had written it. But the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, guys, the thing is that I actually have another radio show in 20 minutes. So what happens is, guys, all I have to tell you is this: I don't sell books, I don't sell CDs, I don't do any of that. All this is free. I don't want any of your money. I don't want anything. You can always contact me at g.parker36gary@AOL. And if you want to come to Florence, contact me. I've had hundreds of people come to Florence. We go down to the river. They all experience it, or we go up to the pyramid and up at Post and Butte, and they yell out the words, and good things happen, and people feel healthy, and I don't know. And it doesn't cost a thing. You just have to contact me. I'll meet you, and I'll show you everything. So also, you can also do the Twitter thing at gparker36gary, and contact me that way, and we can make it happen. So, but please, the main message of all this is the golden rule. Treat people the way you want to be treated. When El shows up, we're all going to learn so much more, and the world, there will be no more wars or anything like that. There still will be rich and poor people, and there will be sickness, and there will be dying, but things will change, and I think it's going to be really fun and really exciting. It's going to be a little scary, but it's going to be really exciting.
And like I said, Gary, hang on one quick moment, and I promise I'll give you plenty of time to get to the next show. Everybody, we will have a part 2. Before we started, 4 hours, he mentioned that he's done other shows, is not enough. Let me acknowledge some super chatters again. Third Phase of Moon, Blake and Brent Cousins, Hawaii, Rockstar, Tammy George, Justin T., 2 of whom are in the Blue Crew. So thank you both. And, of course, Ryan Fusco. With that being said, folks, if you see right there, that's all the social media. Other people, specifically Pam and Lasha, are the ones that are in Facebook because I never use it. I do use Twitter because I was my Twitter account was suspended and I lost the 40,000 plus followers. I have to start it anew, so it's now at DRJ Radio Live new. Everything else is at Dr. J Radio Live. However, the new Twitter is at Dr. J Radio Live new. With that being said, pay attention to what Gary said. Go back if you need to hear the specific directions. Don't forget to follow the golden rule. That is the single greatest advice you can follow in the world. And with that being said, folks, I plan on doing a full week this week, and I will see you here back on Monday.